Hey, how are you? My name is Ben, and I'm a movie buff. As promised, I have a very special guest star with me today. I suppose she's my first guest star on this show. Her name is Kayla. She's my wife.
Thank you, Ben. So, as he was saying, yes, I am Kayla, and I am, in fact, his wife. And although I'm not quite a movie buff, not quite at the same level as you, I still like to say that I'm a big nerd when it comes to film. So, I'm very happy that you asked me here today to help you out with this.
Ah, you're welcome. So, Kayla and I are going to be talking about our favorite romantic movies today. Given that we're in the month of Valentine's Day, I thought it'd be fun to talk about some of our favorites in the genre of romance. Really, when it comes down to it, if there's a movie that has a lot of romance or a movie that has a small amount of romance, we're still going to count it towards our discussion because romance can be part of any genre. So we'll be talking about a lot of that stuff today. And we'll do our absolute best to avoid spoilers. If we feel like we can't, like we have to go into detail about a given film, we will give you a spoiler warning. So be rest assured. Other than that, let's get this show on the road. So Kayla, start us off.
Well, I guess I should start off by talking a little bit about the first romantic movies that I've seen. So, being a product of the 90s, well, 80s baby, but being a product of the 90s, I watched a lot of classic 90s chick flicks. My mom was a huge fan of Julia Roberts, so some of my first ones that I got exposed to were movies like Pretty Woman and My Best Friend's Wedding. Both really good films in their own right. Pretty Woman being a modern retelling of My Fair Lady, and My Best Friend's Wedding kind of being a very cliche romantic comedy without quite the cliche ending, and you'll know what I mean if you've seen this film. And as Ben said, there are so many different kinds of romance films or romance in film that it's just hard to narrow it down to one specific thing. Some of my other favorites include movies like The Philadelphia Story, About Time, Stranger Than Fiction, even The Romance, and North by Northwest, just to name a few.
Cool. And some of the few that I have to mention quickly as well are City Lights, a romantic comedy directed by Charlie Chaplin back from 1931, so silent film. It's easily my favorite Charlie Chaplin movie, and it's very funny and also very heartfelt as well. I also have to bring up Moulin Rouge. I remember seeing Moulin Rouge as a teenager and having no idea what I was in for. And while it's characterized by its big, crazy musical experience, there's also some really nice romance there, especially characterized by the song Come What May, which is just a really nice and sweet romantic song. And then I also got to give a shout out to Hacksaw Ridge and Braveheart. I mentioned both of them together because they're both directed by Mel Gibson and they both have a lot of similarities. And one of the similarities I find is that they both have an emphasis on romance in the first half of the movie. I really like both of the romances. I find they're both sweet and endearing and you just want everything to work out for them. Kayla, give us another romantic movie.
Well, the first one that I want to talk a bit more in detail would be my favorite cheesy romance movie, which is Where the Heart Is with Natalie Portman and Ashley Judd. The thing about this movie, even though it's so cheesy, I mean, it's cheesy, but it's good cheese. It's good cheese. There's something so charming about the characters in it and the romance that develops that I can't help but not like this film. It's wonderful seeing Natalie Portman's character just get taken in by this community and all the experience she has. Every time I watch it, it's such a guilty pleasure movie, and although it's not, maybe not Oscar quality or anything, there's, like I said, just something so charming that it's worth a watch for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. I saw it a few years ago, and yeah, it's as cheesy as it is, it's still likable. And Natalie Portman, she's just very enjoyable to watch. She's got such charisma, so you're there for her. You're rooting for her. So one that I have to bring up is 500 Days of Summer. This came out in 2009. I saw it in theaters back when it first came out. And what I love about this movie is that, for one, I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel as the two main actors. They're both fantastic. They have such great chemistry, and they're so enjoyable to watch. What I like is that it's got some familiar territory, but then it also kind of takes the romantic comedy and flips it on its head in a way by kind of doing different things with it. So while you feel like you might kind of have it pegged in the direction it's going to go, it actually does something different. So it's still very romantic and entertaining and comedic nonetheless. And I got to give a shout out to one scene in particular that just perfectly captures the warm, fuzzy feeling of love. I can't say anything more about it because if you haven't seen the movie after this video, you should watch it. But yeah, it's such a great, entertaining scene, and you'll know it when you see it.
Well, the next one that I have to mention is actually this segues really nicely because you were just talking about Joseph Gordon-Levitt in 500 Days of Summer. So another movie that shows that I'm a product of the 90s is I really love the movie 10 Things I Hate About You. Joseph Gordon-Levitt does have a somewhat smaller role, although he's still in a lot of the movie. He's this very awkward teenager trying to woo the popular girl. But the movie actually focuses more around Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger's relationship. And this is also when they were very young and starting out their careers, but they just do such a fantastic job in this movie. 10 Things is loosely based on Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew. It's pretty loosely based, but
It still follows the same
it still
story
follows.
beats.
You have Julia Stiles.
Yeah, familiar enough.
She's kind of a shrew, and Heath Ledger's trying to woo her, and it's really funny watching their interactions and seeing how that develops. And I really enjoy this film for its sass and its sarcasm and its overall wit. And I really like how Julia Stiles is such a strong female character, and that this is an example of a movie that shows you can have a woman romantically interested in someone and not compromise the fact that she is a strong female character. So I also really enjoy it for that.
Cool, yeah. I remember seeing it in grade 12 English after we had read Taming of the Shrew. And without giving any details away, I just remember a particular scene where Heath Ledger sings a song. And as a teenager, I was just like, whoa, he's cool. It's like, way to go. He's got the moves. The next romantic movie I have to pick comes to us from Disney. And as we know, Disney, in a lot of their animated movies, they do romance pretty regularly. And I think the movie that they did the romance best in was, without a doubt, Beauty and the Beast. For me, it's just an animation masterpiece. It's got some really great romance. The love between Belle and the Beast is something that what they're doing in particular is not exactly something that all the other love interests do in Disney movies. So I find in that way it's pretty different, which is good. And talk about movie magic, the scene where they're dancing to the Tale as Old as Time, the Beauty and the Beast song. It's just such a beautiful and great scene.
I really loved that movie too growing up. Belle was always my favorite Disney princess, and for sure I just loved how great a role model she was and how she treated others. But I do love the romance in that it's just them learning about one another and them loving one another for who the other person is. So that's really wonderful. Although like Disney has some other good examples. I mean, Tangled isn't up high on my list as well.
Yeah, Tangled's awesome. Tangled is really well done for sure.
Well, the last one that I wanted to bring up that doesn't get talked about enough is the movie Stardust. So Stardust, for those of you who haven't heard of it, it's kind of like your 2000s version of the 1980s classic Princess Bride. It's very much in the same vein as that type of movie, but it's also so much its own thing. I find Claire Danes and Charlie Cox just have such amazing chemistry in this film. Really just the romance that develops between them throughout the movie, where at first it doesn't start as a romance about them. Really, it starts off as nothing says romance like the gift of a captured injured woman or kidnapped injured woman, something like that. So you don't think that much is going to be possible with this. You're like, where is this going? But just seeing the adventure they end up embarking on together and how sparks start to fly between them, it's just really adorable and such a great movie. Just on the whole, you have Robert De Niro's in it and Mark Strong, and the comedy is somewhat off color, but it never takes it too far. It's just a very fun ride and a really adorable, again, another adorable romantic movie.
Yep. There's a cool visual thing they do. I won't go any further than that, but there's a cool visual thing they do with one of the characters to show like when she's happy, when she's in love. And I thought that was really nice. There's some really sweet moments that come out of that. So if you haven't seen Stardust, after this video you should watch Stardust. Yeah. The last one that I want to bring up is easily one of my favorite romantic movies of all time, When Harry Met Sally. This is a romantic comedy with Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal. They have, once again, perfect chemistry in this movie. They are so enjoyable to watch. The movie is very entertaining and heartfelt and funny. I think the best compliment I can give a movie like this is Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan spend a lot of the movie kind of arguing and bickering with each other, as couples in romantic comedies tend to do, right? It's that classic cliche of, oh, we're arguing with each other, and it seems like we don't like each other, but we really do. We're really interested in each other. And I think When Harry Met Sally is the gold standard. I don't think I've ever seen a movie that has done it better than When Harry Met Sally. I could watch them bicker day in and day out. It is so entertaining. I think that's my favorite example of that kind of cliche. I think that's it for us. Kayla, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me about all these romantic movies. I really appreciate it. And I would ask you guys to please like, share, and comment on this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. It has adventure and comedy and romance.
And Mark Strong.
And Mark... very strong. Yeah, it's another potential blooper. Mark Strong.